1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Royal Blue Podcast sound check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Royal Blue Podcast sound check. Monday show live. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hello and welcome to the Royal Blue Podcast. It's the Monday show. It's the post-match Nottingham Forest reaction show. We are live and I am your host, Ian Croll. Joining me in the Royal Blue studio today to talk all things Everton, we've got EFC reporter from the Echo, Chris Beesley. Chris, life is so much better when Everton win football matches, isn't it?
Yeah, and then like you say, when they win them in that manner, that is the best manner in which to win a football match. If it's going to be 1-0, that's how you want to do it. Incredible scenes. Obviously, I was fortunate enough to be there at City Ground with Joe Thomas on Saturday. Mark Pembridge was actually sat to my right. I know he's caused a bit of a stir with his scream on Radio Merseyside, celebrating that much. The Mer for Maradona. I didn't know the Blues were so close to his heart, but maybe it's because he's ex-Derby County man. But yeah, I didn't even notice that. I was probably too busy just giving Joe a playful dig as that goal went in. I just thought, well, for me, Mark Doucoure up a couple of points, but for Joe, it probably mean a bit more of a rewrite of his match verdict, to be fair. But yeah, we'll take that.
Was this some sort of Gary Neville-esque, like, scream let out of euphoria?
I don't think I could replicate the actual noise. I said somehow I didn't even notice. Maybe it was too high pitched in my ear. I couldn't even hear it. But yeah, I think it just showed you the emotion, isn't it? If from all Evertonians, really, they would have been made up with that in the sunshine in Nottingham, and it's obviously a huge. 3 points that puts Everton on the cusp of survival now, hopefully. So, terrific day. It was a lovely weather anyway, lovely day out anyway. But as we were going to come on to, probably look like, despite bossing the play, Everton we're going to have to get a goalless draw. But yeah, obviously the great move on the counter-attack right at the end to secure what I thought was a deserved 3 points. Certainly no smash and grab, despite the late nature of the goal.
Absolutely, and the scenes at the end, fantastic. You know, almost magical when you see stuff like that. A late goal, celebrations, on the pitch, and after the final whistle as well. So obviously today's agenda, we are here to react to the Nottingham Forest win. So podcast will be dominated predominantly on that. We also are going to keep an eye out for the announcement for the date and time of Goodison Park's final game. So you never know, we might get an announcement while we are live.
Hopefully not, but yeah, we've been waiting long enough, haven't we?
We have been waiting long enough. So stick with us for that. And as always, give us a thumbs up, drop us a like. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. Your support is greatly appreciated. Get your comments in, as always. And Chris, we've already had a comment here. Wow. I'm going to brag about this because, when you get things right in football and on a podcast, you might as well brag about it. It's probably only one I've got right this season.
Okay.
But on the podcast with Joe on Friday, I did predict an Everton 1-0 win. Yeah. And I kind of called it in the way that the game went. Okay. So we've had a comment already from Terry Dactyle who says, Ian called it. He said we would stifle Forest. We actually did more and controlled it from start to finish. Game of two halves. Us first and us second.
Okay. Yeah, he's got a wicked sense of humour, as Terry at times, hasn't he?
He has. So I'm gonna brag about that one. Do you know what the funniest thing was? Before the game, I didn't actually think that we'd win it really based on anything that we do. I watched Forest against Villa last week and I thought they were tremendous. Even though they lost, they were tremendous. And I thought when a team plays like that so well and still loses the game, that can be a real kick in the teeth. And I just thought us coming to the City ground would just be too much for them psychologically. And I'd as we'll come on to, we were the better team throughout. maybe a little bit of a lack of a cutting edge in moments, but we had the cutting edge when it mattered, I guess. And we got the 1-0 win.
Yeah, what did Joe go for? Can you remember?
I think he went for a conservative 1-1 draw.
All right, okay.
So I'm going to brag, and that's the end of it. Okay, initial thoughts. I guess late drama. We've talked about that 94th minute winner from Doucoure. I mean, let's face it, Forest are having the season of their lives. You know, they came to Goodison Park earlier in the year, or late last year, wasn't it? I think it was still December.
Yeah, it was more Deitch's last home game, it proved.
And they dominated us from start to finish, so quite the turnaround really from that fixture. But, you know, just the feel-good factor keeps on going under David Moyes.
Yeah, as you say, incredible season from Nottingham Forest, 17th last season. So they're looking to repeat what David Moyes' Everton did 20 years ago and being like the lowest team to stay up one season and then getting into the Champions League the year after, and they're still on course to do that. I mean, they've got more points than Manchester City as we speak. Just shows what an incredible turnaround it's been for them. Nuno Espirito Santo, somebody who was possibly very close to getting the Everton job before Mashiri appointed Rafael Benitez. He could have succeeded Carlo Ancelotti. He's having an incredible season, of course. Still in the FA Cup. They were singing about that on Saturday, the Forest fans, along with some more than savoury chants towards Everton and the people of Liverpool, but they were singing on a more positive note about their upcoming trip to Wembley. So, incredible season that they're having. But one thing that was interesting beforehand, when we were in the press room, and Brian Laws, the former Nottingham Forest player, came in and he was talking to Ian Snowden. I mean, I was pulling Snod's leg a bit because I knew that Everton's other ambassador, Graham Stewart, was at Toffee Fest, which is an event in San Diego, California. It was going on for Saturday. I mean, shout out to all the American Blues there, including Dr. David France, who was in the thick of it. Yeah. And they were all watching the game, so they must have enjoyed themselves. Early start for them in California. So I said, do you draw the short straw coming here and Diamonds over in San Diego? But when he was talking to Brian Laws about the game, two old pros there, obviously know the game, and they were talking about the styles, because what Forest have done this season is they've got a style that works really well for them in that they counter-attack and they let the opposition have a lot of the ball, and they've done really well playing that way. But then Everton hardly bossed possession either, so it was almost like, what are you going to do here? You're just going to give it to each other or something. So it was a real sort of clash of styles in terms of how would Forest be able to pick Everton off if Everton aren't necessarily going to be happily just passing it around themselves. And so I think, to be fair to David Moyes, he really did a number on Nuno and the Forest side. I've been perhaps thinking Everton have been unfortunate in that, and although they'd had a long unbeaten run before the derby, there'd been a few draws in there where they probably could and should have picked up a few more wins. There's no other way around. This is where you thought, all their good work's going to only bring them the point. But in the end, they did get the 3 points they deserve. But yeah, I think all praise, like I say, to Moyes and just the way he set the team out from a tactical point of view. Like you said, bossed it from the first minute, really. I mean, it was a poor first half, it was a spectacle. But Everton were always the better of the two sides and always looked like they were going to be... if somebody was going to make... the breakthrough, you always hoped it was going to be Everton, and based on the way that the game panned out, it was thoroughly deserved, I felt.
I mean, the comments from the Forest manager, Nuno Espirito Santo, kind of backs up what you said. So just a little segment of what he said after the game. He said, we were not comfortable, Everton were dominant, and they created a lot of problems to us. The fact that he says we were not comfortable just kind of emphasises exactly what you were saying. It was a clash. Forest expect to play a counter-attacking football, so they don't have the ball too much, but like you say, Everton don't dominate possession as such. No. Even though I thought they did okay on the ball, very neat and tidy. Again, it was just I just got to the point in the game where it was going to come down to a clear lack of cutting edge, which is, been the case over the past couple of weeks. Even when the, improvements have been made in performance, you just think a 94th minute winner, even though Everton have been the more likely to score, I still actually didn't see that coming, really.
Yeah. It's interesting, actually. Poor Joe. Again, Joe did the managers, and I went to speak to James Garner, and it was one of the things that James said. There's that piece is in the Echo today about how obviously Everton are hoping to do a Forest themselves next season. I mean, it'd be incredible if they got anywhere near that, but that's got to be the aspiration for teams like them. But Joe was speaking to Nuno, and he wanted to try and get a sort of a gauge from him from an Everton point of view, and he admitted he sort of tied himself in knots here in that he couldn't get Nuno to bite because he'd been too polite. And basically how he'd framed the question, he said, well, you went to Goodison Park at the end of December, won comfortably, and then obviously you had today, so what's changed with Everton? Perhaps he shouldn't have been so... if he'd not had you've won comfortably, because Nuno was like, no easy games in the Premier League. So I think being too nice sort of caused Joe a bit of trouble on Saturday. If he'd have just said, well, why are Everton so much better? But yeah, as Nuno admitted it himself, yeah, Forest were second best. It must have been a frustrating afternoon for their fans because, like I said, the incredible season, it can still be so for them. We might even end up with some silverware, who knows? But I mean, getting into the Champions League, they're still in pole position for that. But that probably was a big shock for them and their fans. You know, they've as you mentioned, the Villa game. They've lost 2 on the spin now. So all of a sudden there's going to be, is this a bit of a jitter now? Is this a bit of a wobble? They're not, unlike those teams who are in and around them, they're not used to being in this position. And as incredible as they've done, this is going to be a big test for them. But on the flip side of things, look at Everton's record since David Moyes came back. And I think if you go from that Villa game onwards when he returned, it's top 5 for
5th in the table.
So yeah, there you go. That's a Champions League place now. So that's before he gets all the big rehaul of the squad gets revamped in the summer, and hopefully a lot of better players are coming in. He's getting a tune out of this team who Sean Dyche had in the first half of the season, and other than Alcaraz, who he's brought in on loan, same set of players who had got less than half the amount of points that they got at the end of the 22-23 season, lowest equivalent points haul in the club's history. So, yeah, David Moyes is kind of doing what Nuno's done over the whole season. He's doing that with Everton in the second half.
Yeah, absolutely. And, Forest-wise, I looked at the gap last week or the week before, and they had a clear run, a clear gap of the teams below them, but that is quickly... then points have quickly diminished. So it will be interesting. I mean, I'll touch upon this very quickly.
Yeah.
A lot of question before the Forest game and even after the Forest game, obviously because we won, can Everton go and do a Nottingham Forest next season? I think it's maybe a little bit premature to say yes or even no, but I guess you've done an interview with James Garner, which you've touched upon, and you can go and read all about that in the Liverpool Echo. Mm-hmm. But he does touch on, what Everton can do next season, whether he thinks that can be a top half finish. I guess he's speaking even with the current squad that they've got now as well, and who knows recruitment-wise who we could bring in. I guess it's probably too premature to even assess anything what's going to happen next season now.
Yeah, but like you say, based on what they've got now, I mean, James was very positive. He believes the players should be doing better, and he believes that they can be a top half team. I think when you say do a Nottingham Forest, obviously it makes a good headline for us, and that's the way we kind of framed it. I think it would be unfair of any team, wouldn't it, in the bottom half to say, oh, well, you're going to be in the top 4, top 5 next season. That's a bit that's asking a bit too much. But what Forest have done, it give teams inspiration. See, it can be done. Yeah. And okay, they had a huge overhaul of players. I think it was over 20 players when they initially got promoted. And even with Everton and all the outer contracts they've got this summer, you're not going to have a sort of an overhaul of that size. But I think after several years of real pain and real suffering for the supporters, why not sort of look forward something a lot more positive, a brand new Everton next season in terms of that terrific new stadium. It's going to bring all the best elements of Goodison Park without any of the bad ones, because okay, like in any new surroundings, you're going to have to get used to it, and it's going to include the fans and the match day routine. But as much as there's going to be all that emotion, and we'll be talking more and more about this over the next month, that saying goodbye to Goodison, and it will be a sad moment in many ways, but it's sort of like a new rebirth for Everton. And like I said, that if you think of where they could have been in terms of the stadium or the team, I mean, they could have been in the Championship by now. I think it's a real positive moment for Everton and a real massive opportunity for them to kick on and do something next season. So it's good to hear that the players talking like that and then wanting to be a part of something that's bigger and better next season.
I mean, there's still plenty of points to play for, obviously, but you're at a point now because of the feel-good factor and the results that we've had. You almost don't want the season to end. Moyes, and this is no having a go at Dice in any way, shape or form, but you almost wish Moyes was appointed a couple of months before, because who knows what could have happened. I mean, that's all hearsay.
Yeah.
Let's break the match down then, Chris, to as we always do. Any standout performances, individual performances for you?
What it was for me is I thought nobody particularly played badly at Forest in terms. I think obviously Broya struggled on what's only his second start for the club. It was a big opportunity for him. Ironically, he started against Forest at home, but I don't think anybody really let Everton down on Saturday. I don't think anyone was outstanding. I mean, Pickford made a couple of saves, but then they were the sort of ones you'd expect him to make. Everton kept Forest at arm's length, and I think that defensively as a unit, they look really solid. I thought Idrissa Gueye was excellent again. I mean, of all those out-of-contract players this summer, you'd imagine he'd be the one top of the list who you'd want to be re-signing. I thought he was the standout one for me. And I thought that for Jack Harrison's really struggled this season, but I thought that was one of Jack's better days. He certainly, again, finishing has let him down, unfortunately. But in terms of what you want your wingers to do, in like creating chances and getting up that wing, I thought it was better for him. And obviously, I mean, Doucoure, it was in many ways. I think I spoke to Michael Ball earlier for his column. It was typical Doucoure performance. You got all the hard running. Maybe letting himself down in other areas, but then ultimately he pops up with the match winner. So in so many elements, it was sort of epitomised what Abdoulaye Doucoure is about, and then that lovely late cameo from McNeil. I know Moyes seemed to give him a bit of stick. I don't know if it was tongue in cheek over the assist.
Ian Clark in the comments has described it the worst defence splitting pass ever.
That's harsh, isn't it?
Do you know what? Like, obviously, it was good and lucky in all in the same aspect. I think it was inch perfect in the sense that it missed the back of the Nottingham Forest defender's foot, didn't it? So it was pinpoint. Yeah. Let's just call it that.
Yeah, from the paintbrush again at the City Ground. He got the winner there last season. Come on. Let's be fair to Dwight. He's been out for over 4 months. I mean, nasty knee injury, and he had the late cameo against Arsenal, and he comes on, sets up the match winner this time. Hopefully, like I said, he can take these licks. If you provide the assist, it was. At the moment, as I saw it in real time, I thought, he's got that. He's got spot on. Yeah, so
fair enough.
Yeah,
I mean, you've touched on Harrison, you've touched on Broya.
Yeah,
I think Harrison. I think it's easy for people like us to be critical when a player has a bad performance. We try to be balanced, obviously, and I'll openly admit, I think. You've said yourself there, Harrison has struggled. I think I've said that in the past. I think I called for him maybe to be dropped since in the last game. But it was an improved performance. But it needs to be consistent now, doesn't it? Yeah. It can't just be a one-off. At the end of the day, now that Moyes has got options back, the competition is going to be there. So I feel like if you're not playing your best game, you are going to be dropped. Similar to what happened to James Garner last week when Tim Irabuman came in for him as well. So
I think Jack Harrison needs to show a lot between now and the end of the season if he does have any future at Everton. I think before he got his goal at Wolves, ironically, David Moyes had said that he'd been asked, hadn't he, in the pre-match press conference about the fact that Harrison and Jesper Lindstrom at the time didn't have a goal or an assist between them. Obviously, they combined at Molineux to put that right. But it's still not enough. I mean, Lindstrom looks like he's out for the season now, so he won't get any chances. But so I wouldn't imagine Everton be paying the fee Napoli have got agreed to make that one into a permanent. And it looks like Leeds are going up, doesn't it? So there's not going to be another chance for Jack Harrison to come on loan if that's the case. So yeah, he needs to show a lot between now and the end of the season. He's a great lad, Jack, to be fair, but while he's a model pro, and nobody can sort of question his commitment for the cause. He's a real hard worker. You do, as Moyes himself has said, in those areas you're not going to have longevity if you're not giving him those numbers in terms of goals and assists, and you need that end product if you're in the final third.
And you said there you felt Broya maybe struggled slightly. I mean, obviously Beto came on for him, but I had this kind of thought before the game when the starting lineup was announced and Breuer was in the team. I thought, can you imagine here if he has a fantastic game and, you know, we spin it on its head, and now it's like we want to sign him. You imagine he has a good run of games, scores a couple of goals, but again, he's another player who's been out for a significant period of time. It's going to take more than just a 20 minutes there or even a first start to get him up and running.
Yeah, been a long time, I think, since he scored a goal in the Premier League. I couldn't tell you off the top of my head when that was, because obviously he was at Fulham last season on loan, didn't get one for them either. So, yeah, I think there's a lot of big, ruthless decisions having to be made by the Friedkin group this summer and by David Moyes in terms of recruitment. And as much as he's shown decent bits in patches, I mean, that's not enough. With the speculation that Newcastle could be back in for Dominic Calvert-Lewin this summer, looks like he'll be on his way. Everton are going to, like so many teams in the Premier League, are going to be searching. I think it's one you and Tony Scott have had tasty debates about, but obviously Everton are probably going to be in the market for a new first choice striker this summer. And again, similar to Harrison, Breuer would have to show a lot between now and the end of the season. Obviously, he can't play at Stamford Bridge in a fortnight against his parent club, but in all those other games between now and the end of the season, if he's going to stand any chance, because obviously, again, Everton have got the option there if they do want to make it permanent, but hasn't showed anywhere near enough for me to do that deal at the moment. He's going to have to really sort of up his game over that final month to even be a sort of on Moyes' wish list. That's how I see it, anyway.
And just going back to James Garner, you know, again, you've done an interview with him in the mix zone. He had huge praise for Idrissa Gueye.
Yeah,
I think again, James Garner for me is another player who's faced a bit of criticism over the couple of weeks, and it's nothing really down to his performances as such. He hasn't had a bad performance. It's just that maybe expectations are high for him, maybe because we know he's a good player. We know what he can do on the ball with his passing range, that maybe we expect a few more goals, a few more assists. And I don't think there's absolutely anything wrong in that, but maybe we should also remember that he is still fairly young. If you look at Idrissa Gueye, who he's playing next to, how old is he? 35, 36?
Yeah, he'll be 36 in September.
So he's had a significant number of years, a huge career experience where, you know, at the end of the day, James Garner is still probably feeling his way, you know, in football. And again, another player who's been injured. Yeah,
he admitted that himself, to be fair, when I spoke to him, when I asked him, because he had a good chance. He probably had Everton's best chance before they actually scored the first half one. Got it on target, but the shot was saved. And he kind of said that himself. He said Idrissa Gueye's just getting better with age, and for a young player like him, and he referenced himself as a young player who was still learning, they were his words, that he is learning so much alongside him. But you're right, we've seen bits and pieces from James Garner, and you think, he's got a finish in him. He can do a bit more. And even in terms of, obviously, he was going back to the City ground. He had 18 months on loan at Forest before he came to Everton on a permanent from Manchester United, and said to him, much stick from the crowd, and he said only when I took that terrible corner.
So was that in the second half?
Yeah,
that was a bad corner. I
was joking apart. You know, he knows himself. He's not deluded.
Yeah,
he knows he's got to improve these set pieces as Everton knew as a team. I mean, it was quite sort of maybe Joe and I had to watch what we were doing on Saturday, because we had Charlie Adam sat behind us in the row behind us in the press box. Obviously, you're taking the vantage point to sort of have a better view than the dugout to see what was going on.
No set piece articles then, though.
We were careful. We maybe not totally slag off Everton's in dead ball situations in case Big Charlie was looking over our shoulders. But I think everybody, Moyes himself has said it, hasn't he? He wants Everton to be doing better from these set piece situations, and James and even James Garner made that one. At least one of them wasn't so hot, and so so in terms of James Garner and his improvement, I think the player is under no illusions himself. He's a really good technical player. I know a lot of people at Manchester United were upset when they let him go. They thought he'd a great potential. So that's the reason I think people have maybe been saying they would like to see a bit more from him, because they know he's got it in his locker.
The set pieces situation's kind of ironic, isn't it? Because Everton could only score from set pieces a couple of months ago, and now we're complaining that we're not scoring enough set pieces. So It is interesting. I'll take goals from open play. And counter-attack. And
it would be nice to have more, though, wouldn't it? To be able to score a decent goal from open play, but then have that up your sleeve as well. So, yeah.
Maybe Charlie Adam needs to stand next to David Moyes on the dugout every time we take a corner or a free kick, like the Arsenal one does. Doesn't he do that?
Well, like I said, they up in the stands with us, so maybe that's why he's getting one wrong.
I'm sure he does. This is completely irrelevant because we won the game, but was there a shout for a penalty on Alcaraz? At the time, I thought that is a penalty, to be honest.
Well, we I think we've learned, haven't we, that the benchmark to get for Everton to get a penalty is perhaps a lot higher than it is at other clubs. Yeah, I wasn't sure, to be honest. It's, maybe it wasn't.
I just think you look at the reaction of the Forest player, and he thinks he's fouled him. Right. Okay, Alcaraz's foot is high, but it's not high enough where you think he's going to kick him in the head, and he wins the ball. Yeah. Whereas the Forest player clatters Alcaraz, and if anything, if you watch it back, he leads with his elbow into his face. I don't know. I think you're talking about that incident a lot more if Everton don't win the game. Yeah, I think that's the point. So I don't think those type of incidents should be overlooked just because we won the game. No, I think for me, you're right. Sometimes you think the threshold for Everton to get a penalty is a lot higher than other teams,
especially when it's Beto as well. Beto, I think, has to be gunned down before he gets something. But
interestingly, I did think Beto had a shout for a penalty as well. But looking back at
outside.
It was kind of outside, and then he ended up falling down in it. But again, it just comes to threshold, doesn't it? What is a penalty to some teams and what isn't? I mean, stick with Beto, I guess. Yeah. He came on. I thought he did really well, to be honest. I know Forest were probably... The game became a little bit stretched because Forest wanted, obviously, to go on and win it, so they were leaving gaps. But I think Beto, naturally, when he comes on the pitch, the way he plays and the way we set up with him on the pitch, we just stretch the game naturally anyway. And you could tell that with some of the balls into him. Yeah,
there's actually, it tends to be the case if he's coming on as a substitute in the second half and limbs are tiring. But whenever Beto's on the pitch, it's fair play to Beto, for better or for worse, whether it's Calvert-Lewin starting or it's Broja or whatever, Beto just seems to get on the end of more chances. It's just stuff happens. I mean, Joe's used that phrase, hasn't he? The agent of chaos, and it is that. But I think he is more than that. There is an element of that because maybe he doesn't always know what's going to be happening next. But yeah, he makes things happen, and he's not the most polished, and that's why we're talking about Everton needing a new first choice striker for next season to take them into the new stadium. But Beto makes things happen, and he does ask questions of opposition defenders.
Without a doubt. I mean, it's a complete night and day from Beto's point of view. From Sean Dyche, and when Beto played under Sean Dyche, he was trying to do the job Calvert-Lewin did so well, holding up the ball, leading the line, winning the headers from the long balls, or trying to anyway, and he just wasn't very good at it. No. Now it's completely different with the way we set up. And okay, sometimes it does bypass the midfield. So maybe that's why you look at the likes of James Garner and he's not getting on the ball as much. But you've seen it in the past where a James Tarkowski steps up out of defence and he'll just play a long ball or an inside pass right into Beto's feet. Completely bypasses the midfield, and Beto's kind of through on goal. But that's exactly the type of balls that Beto wants.
Definitely thrives on that. I think it was the Leicester City game we saw that. It was a great assist from Tarkowski. Yeah, he's sort of blown hot and cold, hasn't he? He had that purple patch where he got 5, and then 5 in 4 games, wasn't it? And then he didn't score for 5, and that's why he ended up losing his place to Broja on Saturday. It'd be nice for him to get back on another scoring streak between now and the end of the season. But like we said, they're all playing for their futures. They're all trying to show David Moyes what they can do, because Moyes is showing everyone, like I said, top 5 form. So he's holding all the cards there, and it's like, well, you come and show me you want to be part of this next season, this new bigger, better Everton, and you've got your opportunities, whether it's Broja, Beto, or any of the players in the other positions. That's what they're all fighting. It's going to be a very different Everton next season. So how many of this lot are going to be good enough to keep their place? And it might be that some of the ones who are maybe part of the first 11 now will be kept on, but they might have more squad roles next season.
Very early shouts for team selection against Man City. Did Broja do enough to keep himself in the team, or does Beto come straight back in, or does Schmidt get a go?
I think could do all of those, and nobody would sort of complain really. Well, I'm sure a lot of people would complain, but I think it's up for grabs, isn't it? As a commentator once famously said, yeah. I think some people have said I've been maybe harsh on Broya. He wasn't poor in my
what did you
book.
give
I've
him
just thought
as a
game
play
of
rating?
six. Game of six. Nobody got lower than six. That's what I was saying. I don't think anybody actually played badly. I thought everyone was okay on Saturday. But he had one chance when he sort of got the ball with his back to goal, and he just couldn't come drop for him properly. So yeah, I don't think you say he's got to be dropped straight back out and Beto comes straight back in. I mean, maybe it's just a case of what David Moyes sees in training between now and the weekend, and maybe how he feels he's got the best chance of getting at Manchester City, because again, it's a very different sort of. I mean, we can go on to this when we preview the game later in the week, but obviously it's very. Although they're close in the table, the sort of test that you've got against Manchester City is a very different one than you get against Forest. Two very different styles of play, so that could obviously come into David Moyes' thinking as well.
Just basically from what you've seen of Broya, is there any suggestion from your point of view that he might not be able to play by himself? Maybe he needs that second striker or certainly a number 10 a lot closer to him?
Possibly. I think we also got question marks in terms of his body and his durability. He's a big, strong lad, as he said himself, but can he sort of hack the pace of the Premier League on a consistent basis? Because unfortunately, we've seen that with Calvert-Lewin in recent times. As much as he's produced some really big moments for Everton, you want somebody who's going to be consistently available as well as consistency in their performances. I don't know, because obviously that's another interesting one, isn't it? Where do Everton go in terms of the number 10 and who's going to be fulfilling that role next season? Abdoulaye Doucoure had an interesting celebration, of course, when he scored his goal, and as obviously he alluded to contracts. You imagine the way he was talking about that. So I don't know with Broy, we shouldn't have to sort of build a team around. I say in terms of David Moyes shouldn't have to build a team around Broya. It should be the other way around. He should be sort of okay. He's not being, like we were saying about Beto, shoehorned in to do a Calvert-Lewin role, but I think it's not so much whether he's got the 10 playing off him, because he could potentially be the one playing off a striker himself. I think, like all strikers, he just needs to be showing more of a goal threat himself, no matter what system he's deployed in.
Some interesting comments with regards to Broya, so I'll just read them out. So Mark Foster says, Broya likes to play wide, looking to play in the channels. Danny Church agrees and says, stick Broya on the right and put Beto up top. And there's a slight difference of opinion.
Okay.
Terry Dactyle says,
back on.
Broya should be in the box, not scoring when you're the wrong side of the linesman out wide. James Dean, I'd play Broya in the number 10 and have someone in front of him. I mean, maybe he just isn't this out-and-out striker that, you know, I don't know whether we thought he was going to be an out-and-out striker. I don't think he is. But again, he's had very little minutes, has he, to prove himself? Yeah.
I mean, we've had three different opinions, just in our viewers there, haven't we? Somebody saying he should be an out-and-out number 9, someone saying he should be a 10, somebody saying he'd be out in the wing. I think when he was even deployed by Albania recently against England, he was he in a wide role there, and then in the next game, I think he set a goal up, but he was playing on the wing again. So, it could be the opportunity to do this. I mean, David Moyes has spoken about how he's going to potentially mix things up, and we might be seeing more of that now that Everton are in that position where they are almost safe now. He's already alluded that Iliman Ndiaye could get a go at number 10. It's something everyone's been asking about. So who knows? Maybe stick Broy on the wicks. Certainly now that Jesper Lindstrom looks like he's out for the season, there isn't really any alternative unless you're using Dwight McNeil as like an inverted winger cutting inside. There's not really many other options on that right wing. So who knows? It might be Broya ending up having a go out there, like one of our viewers says.
Let's just talk about the goal. Obviously, we've talked about the assist from McNeil, but was there any doubt in your mind that Doucoure was going to slot when he was through on goal?
I was confident. Yeah, he was probably, as he was going to say, which Everton player would you want in that position? He'd be right up there, wouldn't he? I was going to say maybe Beto a few weeks back, but I don't know now. Maybe not Calvert-Lewin. At least it wasn't so much. Well, it was one of those, didn't have a lot of time to think, did he? He had a little bit of time. I think Dom tends to struggle when he's got a lot of thinking time. But yeah, he'd be right up there. Yeah, I was confident. I was hopefully he would do it. And yeah, he took it with aplomb. That's what he could do. That's what he does well, doesn't he? To be fair, in those sort of positions, and he's obviously right, as we said, right in front of the away fans as well. So it was a magic moment. But yeah, he made the finish look easy, and that's a sort of compliment to him. He had the ability to think, yeah, he'll tuck that away, whereas maybe other ones might not have done.
No, absolutely, and we've done a piece on this as well. The celebration, tongue-in-cheek celebration, where he kind of shows his name on the back of his shirt, but turns around and quickly. What does he do? Signs a contract. Again, tongue-in-cheek, you would have thought. But do you think he's a little bit miffed? Like, as in, that he's not being offered this original new deal, or it's not being extended on his original terms? I mean, let's face it, it doesn't matter what line of work that you're in. If someone doesn't offer you a new deal or a new contract, and we don't know whether the club are going to actually do this, but we're assuming that they might offer a new deal on lesser terms. You personally, you would be a little bit miffed, wouldn't you, regardless of how you think you are as a player quality-wise? Yeah,
I think that's natural, isn't it? Anyone would be. Like you say, in any line of work, if you're getting X amount to do your job, and then they say, well, we don't want to keep you on those same terms, which is in not taking up the option to extend the deal. That's been done. I mean, we've got a panel piece coming up tomorrow morning where myself, Paul Wheelock and Matt Jones will all debate this about what the future might hold for Abdoulaye Doucoure. So, like you say, it looks like now if he does have a future at Everton, you'd imagine it would be on reduced terms. That would otherwise they would have just would have done the automatic extension, taken up that option. So yeah, it said we've seen both in his performances and his attitude. He's not one to down tools. He's not going through the motions. He's not sulking. But his future is up in the air. He discussed that when he was speaking at that show, Racism, the Red Card event. After that disgusting reaction and online and the racist abuse he received there, and he spoke very openly about that, about his future there. Now it is up in the air for him at the moment. So yeah, he probably is a bit miffed by that. But from the club's point of view, I can totally understand why they would want to do that. He was originally signed, wasn't he? It was that same summer the club brought in James Rodriguez and Allen when Carlo Ancelotti was the manager. So times have changed at Everton since then. There's been big changes since then, and we've had the points deductions and all the PSR issues in between there. So Abdoulaye Doucoure at 32, although he's still super fit and he's still, I don't know the actual stats, but he seems to run more than anybody else. He would argue, well, it's not like I'm old and I can't move anymore. He's still bringing that physicality to his game, so perhaps he is a bit perplexed about that. But I think that it maybe shows that he wants to be part of that Everton going forward. Perhaps
I think his age probably comes into it, doesn't it? Let's face it. I think if he was like 21 or 25 or whatever, then I think it would be a little bit different. He is just, for me, like the only word I can probably describe him as an enigma. I can't even say it. Enigma.
Yeah.
For the player to have done what he's done for Everton over the past couple of years, we know what he's good at. We know what he's not good at. You've already described there his running that he does, the work that he does off the ball. Obviously, lets himself down in terms of his capabilities of what he can do on the ball. And it's funny that people go, well, he chips in with a goal, but he has actually only scored 3 goals this season. But he does score some important goals, and we obviously know the most important one that he scored. So I think I'd have Doucoure, but again, we know it's going to be reduced terms if he does sign up. But he might just think this is the perfect way to end his Everton career, and who knows? He could go to Saudi. There's always that option for players coming to the end of the career. I think Moyes would potentially like to keep him around, But you would like to think in the summer, recruitment-wise, that quality on the ball will looking for better players with a bit more technique. But I love Abdoulaye Doucoure, and I think maybe it's not abuse as such, but I think the shouts of maybe he's not good enough, probably just needs to stop. He's probably not good enough to take us forward, but he could still probably do a job.
Yeah, I think for me, at the moment, like I said, it would be fall into that category of that you probably would like to keep him on, because look at all these out contract players. You can't just be like non-league and like let loads go and have a completely new team. You've got to have some sort of consistency in there. So for me, it would be reduced terms, which seems to be the only way he's staying on if they've not, like we said, insert the clause, have not taken up their option, and possibly reduced playing time. But it depends. He could be brilliant, could have a renaissance, but with the idea being that he has more of perhaps a squad role rather than being part of the first 11. But then, if he still keeps showing it, maybe make it too hard for him to be dropped. But I think I'd be looking for maybe somebody new in that area. But if he was happy to stay on and a deal could be agreed with him, I say he's a top man and a top professional. And then he'll also, obviously, he's the man who saved Everton from what would have been a first relegation in 72 years, and I'm sure nobody will ever forget that, and will always be thankful.
Absolutely. The run of fixtures that we've been on, we step away from the game a little bit. Let's face it, we've faced first, second and third, managed to get 4 points and being competitive in every single game. Even Moyes said we're mixing it with the big boys as such, but we're going to finish April against 4th and 6th. So that's obviously City coming up, and then it's Chelsea.
Yeah.
So usually these type of fixtures, these run of fixtures, is met with a bit of fear, anxiety or trepidation. But I'm looking forward to the end of the month. Under David Moyes, I'd like to think the future, certainly towards the end of the season, is a little bit brighter.
Yeah, it's interesting now that if you look at the table, it's sort of concertinaed in that around that group around Everton. But Everton, they actually moved up, didn't they, yesterday against Manchester United with a goal difference.
Yeah.
So Everton are now top of that mini group now, which is the group just above the three clubs who look like they're going down. I think have Wolves won like 4 on the spin or something like that. I mean, there's only 3 points between Everton and Wolves now, but Everton are top of that mini table. They're going to be hard pressed to move any further up the table than what they are now. But they're just sort of ahead of all that pack at the moment. So after playing the top 3 of the Premier League, to find yourself in that position, it's not bad going now.
Yeah, Wolves have done very well considering where they were.
Yeah.
Obviously, we've done very well. It's the likes of teams around us, United, Tottenham, and you'd probably say West Ham, who have slipped a little bit. Obviously, all of those teams are still certain to stay up and clear a relegation. But we're 5 points behind Crystal Palace. I think that's the thing, isn't it? You don't move up too much in this scenario, but you might move up a place or you might move down a place. So it's again, I just go back to it's just a shame that the season's probably going to end, and we can't see what we realistically could have done, maybe with another run of 12 games. But maybe the season will just end at the right time for Everton, and then it's a blank canvas for the new season in the summer, and see where we can go. I think it's going to be a short podcast today, but we're off like 45 minutes. Anything else that we want to speak about?
The only other thing that I would say is obviously we've got a big Everton anniversary coming up. Obviously the Bayern Munich game, and we're hopefully going to put something together very special about that. We're all talking about at the moment saying goodbye to the grand old lady. Goodison's final 3 games now, and we're hopefully going to put together a nice piece of special content to go with that, to be a fitting tribute, we hope, to what is widely regarded as Goodison Park's greatest ever night.
Yeah. Good shout to bring that up. That date is the anniversary. That is the 24th of April, isn't it? Yep. Which is a Thursday. So we're looking to publish something special with regards to the European Cup Winners' Cup semi-final against Bayern Munich. So keep an eye out for that one. I guess I might as well just mention it now. I'm off from Wednesday, Chris, as you know. So this is my last show of the week. So there's not going to be a Wednesday show, unfortunately. However, Chris will be back on Friday with Conor O'Neill, hopefully.
Hopefully, fingers crossed. And a Good Friday special.
It is a Good Friday special. We are going to be a little bit light staff-wise, obviously with it being Good Friday and the bank holiday weekend. So, unfortunately, it's not going to be a YouTube show, but we will have an audio version of the show. So Chris and Conor are going to preview Manchester City.
Yeah, you just have to imagine what we look like as we sharing our pearls of wisdom.
We care about our YouTube watchers as well as our audio listeners as well. We're all one family.
Yeah.
Obviously, that depends on David Moyes' press conference. Yeah. We don't know when that's going to be yet. It could be a Thursday. It could be a Friday.
Keeps us on our toes, doesn't he?
But we'll see. But yeah, I guess we'll just we'll finish off, Chris. It's just a huge turnaround. Like I say, it's just since David Moyes has come in. I know there's been still a couple of ups and downs. You know, he didn't win his first game, but you know, ever since that Tottenham game, despite a couple of draws in the midst of the wins, like you say, we are on the form table 5th in the league since David Moyes come in, and it's hopefully positive towards the end of the season, and he's laying foundations for me, hopefully for the summer and beyond.
Yeah, definitely. Just on those incredible scenes at the end. See, we were in the press box, but we were able to just look across and see them. Though the Everton players really milking the applause, and rightly so, from the jubilant Evertonians in the sunshine. There, it was a lovely moment for the players and the fans alike, and that connection that you could feel and you could see between them all. Doucoure had his moment; he was pushed forward and had a bit of a dance or whatever he was doing, a celebration in front of the fans, and yeah, they were all taking it in, and I'm sure they all, you know, supporters and players alike, want to have many more days like that next season.
Absolutely. Okay, well that is all for today's show. Please remember to give us a like and subscribe to the channel. As always, drop us some 5-star reviews on Apple and Spotify. Most importantly, enjoy the rest of your day, enjoy the rest of your week. I've been Ian Croll, joined by Chris Beesley, and this has been the Royal Blue Podcast.